give you the ultimate guide to the perfect DIY copper hair at home, and I'll be sharing with you my copper hair color formula. I have been coloring my hair copper since January of 2023, and I've done it every 6 to 8 weeks since, and played with it to get the perfect copper color for me. And so the perfect color for me might not be the perfect color for you, so I want to give you some tips and tricks on having a starting point. I'm not a professional hairstylist, just have an Amazon Prime account and access to the internet and love copper hair, and I want to teach you what I have learned. So if you want to get the perfect copper hair color, save some money, learn how to do it yourself, then you're in the right place. Whenever I first colored my hair copper, I was very nervous because I had never done any DIY hair color at all. I've only gone to get professional hair color, and I had never done a copper color before. Let's get into everything that you will need to color your hair. First things first, we have to acknowledge that we all have a different starting point. Looking at this chart, you can see there's different undertone thing, there's different pigments underneath the different levels of color when you lift it. So for example, looking at this chart, my natural color is probably about a level 5, and so whenever I lift it, I have more of an orange-red undertone to my hair, and so the color will still be copper no matter what, and it'll probably still look really good, but the undertones of it being more golden orange or more red may vary depending on where you're starting from. I can't guarantee that your color is gonna turn out like mine, but luckily copper hair is pretty hard to mess up. Even the first time I was coloring my hair, I reached out to my hairstylist and I asked her if she would rather do it because I'm scared, and she said if you already have the supplies, it's really hard to mess up. Go for it. As long as you go into it with a learning mindset and you're gonna trust the process, it's most likely gonna look really good. I have not seen anybody do a copper hair color that doesn't look good on them. You have to make sure that you have the right supplies. So I ordered a whole kit of hair dyeing supplies off of Amazon. It came with like the cape, the bowls, the mixing things, and I've had the same ones for a year and a half, and I just clean them and reuse them every single time. But really what you need is the tubes of hair color, a coloring supplies kit, a cape, highly recommend a cape, it can get a little messy, and a scale. And then the developer. Make sure you have a high quality shampoo and conditioner that's not just gonna strip the color right out of your hair and go down the drain. Reds and coppers tend to fade really fast supposedly, and so making sure you have a high quality shampoo and conditioner, as well as having like the hair treatments to make your color last longer. Personally, I like the way that this color fades. I think it looks really nice and really natural throughout the whole process. My favorite time is after I've washed my hair a few times and the color's faded a little bit. But making sure that you have all your supplies and enough color just in case, especially if you're starting from like already colored hair. I did have, whenever I first colored my hair, I had my brown roots and I had like a lived-in blonde highlight situation thing going on, and it worked out just fine. But if you have like super dark box dyed hair or previous color on your hair, it's probably best to go to a professional, especially if you need to lift the color out using bleach. You know, color your hair at your own risk. I'm gonna insert a video of me actually coloring my copper hair, as well as my specific copper hair formula will be listed on my blog post. I believe in you. It's gonna look beautiful. And let's go into more of the coloring. Here, doing a refresh. As you can see, my roots are growing in. It actually always turns out a lot brighter on camera than it looks in person, but I'm gonna be sharing with you my copper hair color formula, exactly with measurements and everything, and just walk you through the process of how I DIY my hair color. I'm gonna start by mixing my formulas together. I have 2 separate mixing bowls. The kit that I bought all this stuff to come with conveniently had 2 mixing bowls and really everything that you need, and I've been using it for a year and it all works out. I am going to put on this little cape. A lot easier to color your own hair when you have it sectioned out, so I do it right down the middle and then right behind my ears, and I check to make sure that I can see the lines, because I need to be able to kind of see where I'm starting at and what I'm doing. And so I clip up 3 of the sections and leave 1 in the back out, so I start at the back and work my way to the front. Let's get into this copper hair color formula. Everything will be linked and listed out for you on my blog post, so it'll be easier, but this is a hair dye that I use, the Igora Royal 757, Igora Royal 7-77, Igora Royal 7-1, and Igora Royal 9-7. So I use that for the roots and the ends. On the roots, I'm going to use 20 volume developer because, as I explained, that my roots are about a level 5 and I'm lifting them to a level 7. So I always use 20 volume developer for my roots. And then on the ends, I'll use 10 or 13. Today I'm going with the 13 volume developer. If your hair is all over one color, say you're like a level 5 brown all the way through, you might have to use a 20 volume developer all over your hair for the very first time. Or if your hair is even darker, you may need to use a 30 volume developer. You have to do your research and make sure you're doing what's right for your hair color. I've always done a roots and ends formula because if you remember, I had the bright blonde through the ends, so I've always not really needed to lift the ends of my hair as much as the roots of my hair. And because my hair does pull a little bit more red when I lift it, that's why I use a 7-1. That's a neutral tone that has a little bit of a green in it, so green cancels out red. So that's why I put that in there. It might not even be enough to make a difference. Like I said, I'm not a professional, but that's why I add that neutral in there. And also to add a little bit, I don't want it to just be like bright orange or bright red copper. I want it to have a little bit of more of a natural tone to it, and that's where the 757 and the 7-1 come in. Those give it a natural tone. 777 is very bright copper. 97 is, I add that in there for more of like the golden hues to it. This is just what I use and what works for me. Sometimes I'll even make it a little bit darker, make it more auburn, or I'll add more of like an 877 or a 97. I can really just play with it, and I hope that you can get to the point that you can do that too to figure out the perfect color for your hair. But to me, this comes out as a true perfect copper, not too red, not too brown, not auburn, not too orange, just a very natural looking perfect copper color. So I'll have everything linked for you to make this easier to get all the color. Remember, I'm not a professional. Hopefully this is helpful. This is what just works for me, and I hope it can work for you too. Okay, now that I have both of my colors mixed, this one is for my roots, this one's for my ends. Now it is time to apply. I start with my roots. I also want to show you, it'll start to develop in the bowl, and so it'll look really bright at first, like bright orange, and you'll see that it starts turning more into like this muted orange color, and it also comes up a lot more vibrant on camera than it does in person. If you're an absolute beginner like I was, this is how I color my roots and make sure I do not miss any spots on the back of my head, because this is probably the hardest part, but it's really not that hard. So I go down and I cover the roots down the middle part on one side, the side that I'm coloring, as you can see here, and then I'm gonna go and I take like tiny diagonal sections. So I start with like this little tiny triangle basically, and I just color the roots. I make sure it's saturated on both sides, and then I just keep taking thin layers, saturate it completely on both sides, and I go down my head like in a diagonal so I don't miss anything. And when I ask, and it is good to ask somebody if you're covering everything. It's nice if you have someone there while you're doing it to look at it, or even to do it for you. That's convenient. But it's really not that hard to do by yourself. And just really make sure that you do cover your roots completely. After I go through each section, I will then go ahead and make sure the whole bottom half and go over the parts one more time. And this is what it looks like. Next, we're gonna do the front part, so the second half is just the same as the one we just did. So then I go down the middle part again, and sometimes I do the little triangles where I go to diagonal, and then other times I just go at a straight line from my part all the way down. As long as you get everything saturated and covered, then you're good. So I'm gonna speed you through this for those of you who just wanna see how it's done. But that's how you cover your roots, pretty much the same way on the back. And then I make sure when I go through, and I make sure that my hairline is totally covered, because that's really the most important part. And when I first colored my hair, I missed a big chunk. So I had like one random brown spot where I missed my roots the very first time I colored my hair. So I really make sure that I go in and saturate my roots. So you'll see me go through after finishing the sections, and I will totally saturate my entire hairline all around my head and make sure every single little baby hair is covered around my ears, on the nape of my neck, and I'll just wipe off any excess from my forehead and my skin after I just make sure all the hair is covered. Now it's time to do the in color, which is pretty easy. So I just take my brush and I just throw a good glob of color on and totally saturate the hair and just pull it through. Make sure it's all the way up to where the root color ends, and you don't want there to be a line from like your root color and then you miss a gap. So make sure you pull it through and saturate everything. I'll take any extra color and just throw that on the ends, make sure everything's totally massaged in and saturated, put it in a clip, and then put a hair cap on, and then I'll go through and I'll wash off the hair dye from my ears and my skin. After it's on, I'll set a timer for about 30 minutes. You can't over process this hair color. It's not going to fry your hair off or anything. It just eventually stops developing. Now I'm going to take my root formula and put it on my eyebrows, and so I'll totally saturate my brows. And I leave this on anywhere from like 10 minutes to 20 minutes usually. Sometimes I forget it's on. And then I'll just wipe it off with a paper towel and then wash it in the shower. I'm gonna hop in the shower and rinse this out. But before I do, I wanted to talk about making sure that when you wash your hair, you use a color safe shampoo and conditioner. I like the Redken All Soft. I also like the Pureology. If you don't use a color safe shampoo and conditioner, then it's going to really strip all that color that you just put on your hair out even more. So this color can fade very quickly if you don't take good care of it, and so making sure you have a high quality shampoo and conditioner is good. I'll have these linked. Let's go ahead and rinse this out. And after the shower, I want to show you what it looks like, because last time I cried before I dried it because I had an event and I thought that I had hot roots and I was crying about it, and then I blew dry it and it was perfectly fine. So this is what it looks like. It's a lot brighter on the camera than it is in person, but I am going to go ahead and style it for you. Pro tip, make sure you don't use white towels because you will get hair dye on them. I don't know if I said this before, but also make sure that you rinse it with cool water and high quality shampoo and conditioner. Let me go get this styled and blow dried, and I'll show you the final hair. This is my hair color immediately after coloring it. I still have some dye on my forehead, but the color is, in person, it is like the perfect copper color. I get so many compliments on my hair whenever I go out, literally everywhere I go. And many people are very surprised whenever I tell them that it's not natural, that I color it. Oh, my eyebrows, I do have them. I just give them a little bit of a tint. I also have them filled in right now. This is the hair. Super pretty. Let me know if you try it out. It is honestly just like a perfect copper. Not too red, not too orange. I will have everything linked for you down below, including the blog post with all of the exact measurements that I used for this specific copper hair color formula. I'll keep the blog post the most updated, as well as you can catch me over on Instagram and send me how your copper hair turns out. I hope it turns out beautiful. If you're a professional or you have any questions, drop it down in the comments below and read the comments to see if anybody has any good feedback for how to make this copper beginner hair formula better. And I hope you end up with the most beautiful copper hair and you decide to stick around. This is my first YouTube video.